Namaste nerds, it's Navanad, Budget Pubstomper, and today we're going to be talking about this little rat friend of mine here. And before we get started, I want to dedicate this video to my buddy Nibbles, my pet rat. That probably sounds crazy to a lot of you, but this was my absolute best friend, the closest I've ever been to an animal, honestly. And we had the little guy put down today. That is not why we are bringing you Vren the Relentless. Literally, these are unrelated events. It was a coincidence, but seemed all the same. It seemed like a good opportunity to give my little buddy, wherever he is, a little shout out. Rest in peace, Nibbles. You are very loved and will definitely be missed. So without further ado, we're going to get into this hopefully not so depressing. I don't even know if I want to call it a deck tech. So I've got a buddy of mine, NeRo Battle Pants, on with me. And I think I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of explain how this little deck tech, I don't know, competition or dueling Vrens came about.
Yeah, no worries, man. First of all, yeah, rest in peace, Nibbles. It's completely unrelated, but it is cool that we can like link this up and then shout out him to it. So yeah, Vren is a monster. So what actually how this all started? It's like this long kind of thing, but in short terms, on one of the recent videos that we did as a collab, I think it was the Hapatra video. The first time I showed up on the channel, somebody in the comments asked if we ever thought about doing one of these $100 budget competitive decks, like things that can still hold their own in the $100 competitive space, or even like the high power bracket 4, without combos. And like the more that it was between that comment and then I do these Reddit posts where I showcase like lists that I do outside of my collabs here. And I get that comment quite a bit, and it just kind of opened a dialogue between me and Navanad where we were talking and trying to figure out would it be possible? Something that I hear him bring up constantly is that as soon as Wizard gets around to doing a format where combat is a viable winning strategy, then we're all in. Yeah. And I think Vren's just able to do it a lot better than most commanders out there, being able to do it comboless as well. So Vren the Relentless, he reads, he's a 4 mana, 3/4 ward 2. Ward was totally not necessary on this thing, but It's pushed, so whatever. The cool part is if a creature an opponent controls would die, you exile it instead. And then at the beginning of each end step, not just yours, but each end step, you create X11 black rat creature tokens with this creature gets +1/+1 for each other rat you control. Whereas X is the number of creatures your opponents control that were exiled this turn. So long story short, if creatures die, you're going to create that many rats at each end step, and then all those rats kind of buff each other up. And there's a lot of creatures and commanders in the space that do something similar where it's like payoff for stuff that you're already doing, i.e. like removal and interaction. It's just that Vren does this, but also makes tokens that scale, and I think that's the really big key thing here. And you're not just I think Navanad, you did a video recently on Graha Tia, was that who it was?
Yeah, I mean, I can't pronounce the thing. Real quick, I want to hang on the initial topic for just a bit. I want to get into that just a little bit further. So the two of us kind of had after we had the conversation he was talking about, we decided that what we were going to do is he was going to build a deck in secrecy, and I was going to build a deck in secrecy. So we were both going to build our own little take on Vren the Relentless, and then we were going to do a video where we revealed them, having never seen each other's lists, and then compare kind of what things that we both did decide to add, what things that maybe one of us did but the other didn't, and then also things that maybe like I look at his list and say, oh, that was a good idea, I should have done that, and maybe he sees some things I should have done. and we can kind of like compare and contrast the list. So just wanted to get a little bit more detailed on what this video is about today. But yeah, there's a kind of a version like a version of this type of effect. It's a white, black, blue, and 1 maybe, and it's same kind of thing. It gives it creates hero tokens that have power and toughness equal to the CMC of the spell that you cast. And I think I think the way that it balances out, or kind of thinking of which one's more powerful, I think that this Dimir Rat is a lot more powerful than that commander. The only thing is, with that commander you get 3 colors, but in budget competitive, being a 3-color deck is not strictly better than being a 2-color deck. And so I would say that this is going to be the more powerful of the 2 options in a $100 meta. If you're going to build on a $100 budget, I think this is going to be the better of the 2 commanders. Maybe I'll try to find, or we'll link that other commander, because I really can't think of the name of it. But which one do you think is more powerful? If you had to take one of these 2 decks, if you had to build one of these 2 decks, either the Esper commander or this commander, and go to a tournament tomorrow, which one would you choose?
It would 100% be Vren the Relentless. Just like you said, I really feel like the 2-color decks shine in $100 budget competitive. The mana base and everything is cheap, but really what ties to it is, like, it's a lot of text, and it's like easy to blow through it and just be like, okay, well, we kill stuff, and then, you know, we get rats based off of it, or exile stuff. It's so many layered effects on top of each other. Vren is a Stax piece in the command zone. So like all those, you know, cool graveyard combo decks that both myself and Navinod seem to love, yeah, those just like don't work with Vren around. You know, creatures don't go to graveyards anymore. They get exiled instead. And then in addition, the biggest thing, I guess, the takeaway, if you skip to the end and then just go to the deck list, the biggest thing to keep in mind is the fact that these rats all scale off of each other. So a very effective and cheap way to let's kind of like maximize the amount of tokens that you're getting each turn is the edict effects, the edict creatures and edict spells, the things that come in or cast and say each opponent sacrifices a creature.
So did you lean into
stuff like that? Yeah. So like
did you lean into that? Well, let's talk about that. Do you which way did you decide to go? What maybe I'm gonna have you kind of talk about your list first, just kind of give a synopsis, but there's a couple questions I want to specifically ask. So number 1, did you decide to go totally comboless, or did you include some other combos? 2, even if it's not another combo or another, did you include any other kind of win conditions, or are you pretty much on Vren? 3, I think it'd be interesting to talk about whether or not you included other rats, because for me that was kind of not the easiest decision to make, because all of the rats, if you for anybody listening, if you haven't been paying great attention or haven't read the card exactly, all of the rats get bigger equal to the number of rats you have in play. So there's a temptation. I think that the average person that's building this deck is going to be like, oh, okay, so we want to make a rat tribal deck. And I'm not so convinced that that's the right answer. But without going down and actually looking at your list yet, I'd like you to kind of answer those questions. Let me go back over them again. Did you use combos and or other win conditions with the deck? Did you go kind of rat tribal, and what kind of overall strategy did you use in terms of control? Are you using like removal deck, or are you doing like a lot of counter spells with some removal, or all of those things? And then yeah, if you would just kind of take me through your deck, because I've not looked at his list really yet. Now we did kind of have a little bit of a quick look at each other's decks, but I really haven't gone through it with any scrutiny at all. So tell me about your deck.
Yeah. So the first thing, yeah. So this is a truly like a comboless win con deck. I did when I'm in Demir, I have a hard time kind of resisting the urge to do like a cool wheels package with Narset and Notion Thief, stuff like that. But the ways this deck wins are completely comboless and combat focused. I leaned really heavily in my list into trying to get as many Vren triggers as physically possible through edict creatures and edict instants, and then flash enablers that enable me to do edict creatures at instant speed. So combination of all of them. So I'm really trying to maximize Vren triggers, and I have rats here. I think actually only one being a Lord Skitter, but it's got to be a really good rat to make it in this deck, which sounds so weird because you look at him and it's like this is the perfect rat tribal commander, and it's just in my testing, full transparency, this is like the third list I've done of Vren. I had a casual list for a while. Well, it was supposed to be a casual list. I quickly found out it wasn't casual, and ended up breaking that down. But Vren is just he it's exactly like Nav said. It's a similar vein to Turgrid. Like this is a removal dot deck is how I built it, and I think it functions really well because of that.
So you went into these final word phantom, high fade trickster, even to fairy. Like you said, you leaned into these instant speed effects. What's kind of your thought process? I didn't use any of those. What are you thinking makes those such a good fit for the deck?
Yeah, so I was quote unquote done with the deck. I had about 90 cards in, and the last couple of spaces, I had like an extra $10 left, and
Yep.
like the cool thing about doing this combo-less is you're left with a lot of money on the back end, and I was just trying to think of a way that like if we could just push this deck over the edge, and yeah, Flash is the answer that I landed on. Just being able to cast out an edict creature like a merciless executioner or a plague crafter on somebody's end step, or before, well, it would be in their second main phase, and then move to their end step, and then you make three more rats. So by the time it gets back to your turn, you have even more power on board to be able to swing out with. Yeah, Flash is just that extra little bit of spice that I landed on with this deck. And the cool thing about like some of the Flash effects, like Teferi, it's also a cool Stax effect as well. So
Oh, I haven't
yeah,
really
just
read
being able
the.
to
Let me just take a look at this guy. Creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield have flash. Each opponent can cast spells only anytime he or she could cast a sorcery. Oh wow, so that's interesting. Each opponent can cast spells only anytime he or she could cast a sorcery. That feels like the other Teferi, or kind of like defense grid. So you got to be careful about these things. Now we're packing. I'm sure your deck is packing a tremendous amount of interaction, and this would be by the time you have the mana to drop a 5 mana creature in play. But kind of my worry about an effect like this is that I'm gonna end up giving somebody a free combo turn when I can't stop their combo and I've turned off my opponent's interaction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. I guess my thought with it, and why I was kind of cool with sending it, is a lot of the creature or a lot of the combos in our meta, in the $100 competitive space are going to be creature based. And by
Yeah.
the time turn 5 rolls around, facing off against this deck, there's not a whole bunch of creatures left over on the battlefield.
Gotcha. Now, am I? This does have a. You did end up on a wheels package, huh?
Yep. Yeah. So that's what I was saying. I'm playing Demir, man. It's
Oh, I'm
hard not
sorry.
to
I
do a wheels package.
misunderstood. I thought you said that you had decided not to use the wheels package, and you saw that I still had. I misunderstood. Okay, I'm all caught up.
Yeah, it's such a powerhouse at this budget, and like I said, it doesn't directly win the game. But when you present the opportunity or present the situation to your opponents where they no longer have all their cool creatures, they're all sitting in exile, and their commander's been blown up like 3 times by that point, and then also, by the way, you don't have a hand anymore, and I have all the cards that have ever existed in my hand. It just like I said, it doesn't directly win the game or anything like that. So I think it still falls into that comboless category. But it definitely makes it a lot harder for your opponents to even imagine winning that game.
And so just for anybody that's not familiar, the main A plus B in this comboless deck, and I'm doing the same thing. We both landed on that same little strategy. We're a Dimir control deck that's not winning with like A plus B win the game combos, but we've got we both ended up on the package of Narset, which just says each opponent can't draw more than one card each turn. That's the main line of text we're interested in. And then Notion Thief says if an opponent would draw a card except the first one they draw on each of their draw steps, instead they skip that draw and you draw that card. And then we've got the 2 wheels, Whisper of Madness and Windfall. So like Windfall here says each player discards his or her hand and then everybody draws equal to the player that had the most cards. But if you've got, let's say you go in step, you flash in a Notion Thief, and then you go to your turn and you cast a Windfall. Well, now everybody discards all of their cards, and let's say one player, the player that had the most cards, was holding 5 cards. Then where normally every player would draw back up to 5 cards, well, with Notion Thief out, when you Windfall, those players do not draw their 5 cards apiece. You draw their 5 cards apiece. So you end up making everybody hellbent, but also you end up with a grip of 20 cards in hand. So it's a little bit difficult to resist the temptation to jam this into just a Dimir control list. So yeah, we both ended up on that same package. Whispering Madness, very much the same. This has a cipher ability, so you can stick this on one of your creatures, especially an evasive one. And then when you hit somebody with it, you can put a copy of Whispering Madness on the stack, and it's just another Windfall effect. So you can use that sometimes kind of like a little quasi draw engine, or if you've got like the either the Notion Thief or the Narset Parter of Veils, which with Narset it kind of strips everybody's hand. Each player gets 1 card, but then you don't get to draw all of the extra cards the way you would do with Notion Thief, but still they're all basically hellbent, and the player whose turn it is, if you flash this in, is hellbent, and you've got pretty much a deadlock on the game, a real tight grip on the game after that. So I just wanted to make sure, in case anybody was not familiar with that interaction, that everybody knows what we're talking about there. Sorry, let me give you back the mic.
No, I mean, yeah, no. So yeah, I agree with everything. I was actually gonna kind of flip it on you. So do you have an idea of like what my deck does and what, how I went about the challenge and everything? How'd you land, man? Because like I said, I've taken a peek at yours, and there's a lot of similarities, but I think there's just as many differences in your deck versus mine. Like what did you land on?
Yeah, it's funny. At a glance, they look very similar. They have a very similar feel. And when I first I started just going through your list here, it looks like okay, yeah, we're doing all the same things. But then when I dig a little bit deeper, there are definitely some differences. There's your flash package that I didn't do, and a couple other things that I'm going to end up asking you about. So now there are also some cards in here that were in my list at one point, and some of them even remain in the considering board. Like Kindred Discovery was one that I was back and forth on, and I like that. And there was actually what did I see in here that made me kick myself? I think I forgot to include what was it? I saw a Blood Pat. I don't have Blood Pat. That's a big miss. Like you gotta You got only so many ramp options in Dimir. I think I should be on the Blood Pet. Oh, and the Grazilax, which is just one of my favorite cards. I don't know how I ended up not playing Grazilax. Anyway, so let's talk about my deck a little bit. So I think I went a little bit heavier. I want to just double check that I'm not missing any. I went a little bit heavier into the Stax effects. So I'm playing a pretty robust Stax package. We've got Karn the Great Creator just turns off turns off all of your opponent's artifacts, basically. So if you've got an opponent who's playing a very artifact-based deck, they're just fucked. There are decks that just can't win through it. And then there's just most decks that are going to play some number of mana rocks, and Karn just says, your rocks do fuck all. So not only do you not have creatures, because I'm going to murder them all, but now you don't have mana rocks either. The Narset is also just a Stax piece. If people are trying to draw extra cards, which if you've ever played a game of Commander, you may have noticed that people tend to like to do that. Narset says no, you can draw the one for turn and that's it. But it's just your opponents can't draw more than one card each turn. We landed on a lot of the same, not as many of the same removal effects as I thought. We both played a Curse Marauder. This is just the best one. It's a 2 mana. When it ETBs, everybody sacrifices a creature and you make some rats. I have back to Stax, Rug of Smothering, which if you're in a deck that is trying to win by virtue of literal damage, which this deck is, I think Rug of Smothering makes it very difficult for your opponents to storm off. They can't do anything stormy, or like if Selvala tries to play like 10 spells in one turn, they're gonna this is like turning the table on the laser cannon. Aetherflux Reservoir, this is like the anti-Aetherflux Reservoir. It says whenever a player casts a spell, they lose 1 life for each spell they've cast this turn. So their second spell pings them for 2, their third hits them for 3, so on and so forth. So that's going to be like a pain Stax effect, but we're playing cards like Talion, which is also putting damage on them. So I think Talion also sort of becomes like a quasi Stax piece. There's going to be some pieces that are just obviously Stax, so I don't need to spend a lot of time on them, but I want to talk about the ones that maybe are not obviously Stax. Azure Beastbinder. I didn't play a lot of rats in my deck either. I think I've got 2 or 3. But the Azure Beastbinder reminds me of one of the pirates that I play in my pirate builds. But let me just read the card. It's a 1/3 for 2. It's a rat rogue, vigilance, and it says it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or greater. Whenever it attacks, up to 1 target artifact, creature, or planeswalker an opponent controls loses all abilities until your next turn. Read that part carefully. Until your next turn. That's a great card. So you just get to turn 1 thing off, and if it's a creature, it becomes a 2/2 and has no other abilities. So whatever the biggest threatening thing on the table is, if like we're using Selvala as an example, you can put the Selvala on ice over and over and over until somebody kills your Beastbinder or until somebody plays out a bigger threat. Voidwalker is another Stax piece that staxes out the graveyard decks in the format, and there's a lot of them. So yeah, I went a little bit Stax here. In the artifacts, we've got Curse Totem, Fuck Your Dorks, Dampening Sphere. If you've got a land that would tap more than 1 mana, it doesn't instead. And each spell a player casts costs 1 more to cast for each other spell that player's cast this turn. So again, if Selvala's trying to play 15 cards, storm off and win, the 15th card is going to cost 15 additional mana. So this is for storm decks, and it'll fuck up some lands also. We've got one of my favorites. Shout out to Ignacio for turning me on to Disruptor Flute. It's just a damning piece. You can sometimes take out 2 cards with just this 1 card, but always it puts 1 card pretty well on ice. You can pick somebody's commander, put the Disruptor Flute down, and it says that whatever card you name when you play it, it costs 3 more mana, and activated abilities of that card can't be activated except for mana abilities. So if 2 people are playing Thrasios, for instance, Or if one person has Kinnan in the 99 and the other one has Kinnan in as the commander, you can drop this thing down and name Kinnan, and those decks are going to be a little bit hurting. Grafdigger's Cage, again, this is one of the most damning Stax pieces in CDH proper or our quasi format. I would argue that if you have a deck that doesn't care about Grafdigger's Cage, you should play Grafdigger's Cage. Same with Cursed Totem. I think those are probably the two biggest Stax pieces in my deck. I think they're the ones that I care the most about. Then we've got Weathered Runestone, which is sort of a backup copy of Grafdigger's Cage. So that, yeah, I went a little Staxy. And then I think I included more counter spells. I did less of the Cursed Marauder, or what's the other guys, like the Plague, these Merciless Executioners and Demon's Disciples. All of these guys have a higher mana cost, at least the 3 mana ones do, for a bit of a pretty big, it's a pretty big effect, but it's a lot of mana too. So I didn't know how many of those effects I wanted to play. I think they definitely have diminishing returns. The first one's amazing. The second one's good. The third one, maybe, who knows. But definitely there's a good argument for jamming tons of these. I opted to go with more 1-for-1 removal, and I know anybody that's heard me talk about how I feel about 1-for-1 removal in this format might find that interesting. Because I feel like you pay a mathematical penalty when you go 1-for-1 removal. You can't hope to police the entire table, because every person you trade 1-for-1 with, the other 2 players are getting the same benefit you're getting when you, say, murder somebody's Kinnan. But with this deck, for a couple of reasons, they actually aren't. Number one, because, well, first and foremost, because every one of our 1-for-1 removal effects comes with a who knows, a 1/1, 2/2, 3/3, 4/4, a big ass rat. And then also I decided to jam a bunch of draw engines in the deck, and so with those 2 things in mind, I thought that I could get away with playing more slim interaction. And then I went with a package of board wipes of Crippling Fear. We just choose the creature type, rats, and then this gives -3/-3 to everything that isn't a rat. Massacre is just a nice piece of interaction you can cast for free a very high percent of the time. It's a it's a Pyroclasm for most intents, for free. Nuclear Fallout I like a lot because first of all, I'm putting some of these fuck with their graveyard effects in play, but also I'm not as worried about filling their graveyard because I've got a lot of effects that are stopping that from being a problem. But more than anything, Nuclear Fallout, if anybody's not familiar, it's black, and X, and each creature gets neg X, where X is twice. Well, the negative is twice X. So if you pay 2 for X, everything gets neg 4. If you pay 1 for X, everything gets neg 2. So just for instance, if I play this for 3 mana, every creature gets neg 2 until end of turn. And each player gets X rad counters, which is going to mill some, it's going to do some milling. We're not too concerned about that. Mainly this is a board wipe that we have some control over how big the board is going to be wiped, like how big the creatures are that are going to die or survive to the board wipe. So I figured if we get to 6/6 monster rats, we can still do this to neg 4 or 5. I used an even number. That was a bad idea, but you get the point. But if we don't have a board state established, then we can put a bunch of mana into this. And I think it's kind of it's good when you're behind and it's good when you're ahead, and I think it could be good when you're at parity because you have some precision with it. And then my favorite is Yahini's Expertise. All creatures get neg 3 until end of turn, and then you may cast a card with CMC 3 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. Normally the problem with board wipes is you have to pay all the mana for the board wipe, and then you don't get to start developing. Everybody else gets to start developing ahead of you. This sort of gets to help you with that problem because you're immediately kind of getting back into the game of getting your board redeveloped. You're not having to pour all of that tempo into this card without having any other return on it than just wiping the board for everybody. Then I think we'll have to look at it closer, but I believe I've got a slightly more robust counterspell package. I want to hear about some of your specific. Well, here's another edict effect. I did put a good number of these edict effects that everybody has to sacrifice. Well, all of your opponents have to sack a creature, and then I try to get a good number of very inexpensive 1-for-1 removal or free, like 1 mana and free mana removal spells, which the budget sort of allowed for. And then on that same kind of, along those same lines of reasoning, I've got things like Unwind in the deck. So I'm just trying to be careful with my mana while I'm playing police, when I'm playing cop. So what? How I don't even remember what the question is. I was just starting to ask you. Did you catch it?
Yeah, I guess just go into more specifics on like I mentioned my strategies, but like go a little bit more into specific on it.
Yeah, specifically, oh, I know. First of all, were there any rats that you did include, or that you did not include, that you almost included? Was there anything that was on your mind, or were there any that you think were close into consideration? Like, for instance, I've got Nashi, which I didn't mention, but this is a bit of a value engine. I used Nashi and the Azure, and then I really didn't go any harder than that. Do you think that there's an argument for jamming more of these rats in, or do you think that's a trap, first of all? And then I want to hear about some of your specific card choices. Well, let's start with this. Do you think maybe there's an argument for jamming more rats and going rat tribal, or is that a trap?
So it, in 99% of situations, I feel like it's a trap, and it's a trap that a lot of people are falling for. If you look through the Moxfield listings for this dude, I'd say about 80% of those decks are usually a rat tribal. I do feel like an absolute idiot for forgetting about Azure Beastbinder. He is, like, hands down one of my favorite two drops. He pulls, guys, this is not an 83 cents card.
Yeah.
It plays so much better than it reads. One that I'm surprised that you didn't have in there, especially leaning into the more Staxy element, and the singular rat who got to hang out with my commander in my list is Lord Skitter. So Lord Skitter's, he's a super neat 3-drop. He says, whenever another rat enters the battlefield under your control, exile up to 1 target card from an opponent's graveyard, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature can't block. So he does double duty in this deck. The thing with Vren, and it's just something you got to be careful about, is he only exiles creatures that your opponents control. So that means it has to be a physical card on the battlefield. It has to be a permanent. A creature that gets countered still goes to the graveyard, and all your opponent's ramp spells and value, everything that is not a creature that existed on the board is still going to the graveyard. So I wanted ways to be able to still deal with that, and Lord Skitter just does so much in this deck. He's the one rat who made it here. But yeah, guys, it's not a rat tribal commander. If you're playing at a lower power level, and I think that's perfectly fine. But it wants to be a removal deck, and yeah, that's how I opted into it. So the way that you went with the single target removal, you went a lot heavier on that. I definitely went super heavy on all of the edict effects. Specifically the edict creatures are what interest me, and my reasoning behind it was I also added in a really solid recursion engine package. Not just one-off recursion cards, but recursion engine.
I just put this together. Let's hear about it.
Yeah, so the thought process was, exactly what Navanon said. It's the first time you play this, it's good. Second time, it's okay. My thought, I'm cool with the reduced rate of return. Artifacts and enchantments are where you're going to see most of them. A card, I will not stop talking about this card until I go blue in the face. It's in the artifacts, Altar of Ball. It is just a bulk card. I actually got turned on to it by another YouTube channel, Surus MTG. They build like $15. It's actually how I got into Budget in the first place. They build $15 decks, and they're definitely more casual. But Altar of Ball. So if you have the deck that's built for it, I'm not really worried about the whole sorcery adventure side. I'm worried about the artifact permanent side of it for 2 mana. It says you pay 3 and tap it to exile a creature you control, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, activate it only as a sorcery. So for 3 mana, you're going to exile one of your rat tokens. And then in its place, you're going to bring back an Accursed Marauder or, one of the Edict effect creatures.
That's really fucking sick. I just put that together. And, that's a really cool interaction. Definitely. So between this piece and all of those 3 mana and 2 mana Edict creatures, your deck, and the Flash enablers, your deck is I'm starting to get my head around what this is going to look like in play. I'm starting to appreciate the intricacies of the deck building here. Yeah, this isn't just a bunch of cards put together. There's definitely some real synergy here. I get the vision.
Yeah, Phyrexian Reclamation is another one that does a similar thing, and that's an enchantment. So yeah, pay 2 life, and all the Edict creatures, they're cheap. I'm gonna pay for 1 and 3. So end step before your turn, you pay 2 and 2 life. You return that Edict creature from your graveyard to your hand, and then on your turn, you're gonna play it again. Chthonian Nightmare, same. It's all of these are just doing the same thing, just different routes. When it enters, you get 3 energy, and then you pay X energy, sacrifice a creature, which is going to be one of your rats, and then return it to its owner's hand, and you're going to return target creature card with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield, which all of our Edict creatures max out at 3, minus Rankle, but he's kind of his own thing. But yeah, so you're gonna, and then this goes back to your hand, so then you can play it again, and it's just like this repeatable, abusable. That was my strategy with it. I'm cool with the reduced rate of return. I want no creatures to exist ever on the board, ever, except my rats. Oh yeah, Rankle's cool. So the haste is, I think if he didn't have haste, he'd be a much worse card. But with the flying and haste, he's making contact the turn you play him in. And when he deals combat damage, you can choose any number of these. Each player discards a card. Each player loses 1 life and draws a card, and each player sacrifices a creature. Usually you're going to be doing the first and the last one. Because your deck is built around creatures dealing combat damage and drawing cards, and everyone else's isn't. So
I like. I'm starting to understand this. Do you think that with your specific deck list there might be room for? I'm trying to think of the name of these effects, like Midnight Reaper, Grim Horospect. I'm thinking of like you could build sort of a little engine if you have something that sacrifices the, say, Plague Crafter, or well, I guess the Plague Crafter sacrifices itself, but you've got something that reanimates the Plague Crafter, and then you've got some kind of a little engine that triggers every time one of your creatures dies. Like I think those are the names: Midnight Reaper, Grim Horospect. I think that could be an interesting way to go.
If I was to redo this, or if we end up doing something along the lines of Ultimate Vren, I think that's the way to go. I opted more into the deals damage, draw card effects like Grazilax and Kindred Discovery, also Enduring Curiosity is another one of those. They all just boil down to deal damage, draw cards. with creatures. So when your creatures deal combat damage, you draw cards. I think the ultimate version of this list replaces all of those effects with the ones like you said, like Grim Horospex, Midnight Reaper, things like that will draw you cards on creature death.
Yeah, I see what you're I see what you were cooking up here. Um, what what do you feel about the or how do you feel about the number of counter spells that you ought to be playing? Do you think that this is a deck that wants to play mostly just removal spells? I just want to take a look. Tell me about your counter spell suite.
Yeah, I mean, you want a good mix with these. I opted for less overall counters, strictly due, like, I'm just trying, when I build these, I try to think about, like, how it's actually going to play out. Like, when you have blue, you want to jam as many counter spells as possible, and I have a good amount. But I leaned harder on removal side than counter side, and my thought process behind it was, one, this is for $100 budget comp. Most of the creature combos and the stuff that I'm going to have to be really, really worried about is going to be very easily handled by this deck, just existing. And then secondly, every spot that's a counter spell is not another edict effect. So I wanted to strike a really good balance. You're not getting away with anything crazy while I'm sitting down at the table with this deck, but I'm definitely not playing spell police. I'm getting rid of the stuff that matters.
So I want to ask you two things. One, I want to talk a little bit about the other draw engines that you landed on. Let's start with that. Tell me about the draw engines. I know we've got Grazilax, Enduring Curiosity. So is that mainly what you did, is you just wanted to take advantage of the fact that you're going to have a lot of board pressure, and if all goes well, your opponents are not going to have a lot of blockers? Was that pretty much it? And then where did you go beyond that in terms of draw or value engines?
So I specifically did engines in this deck for my draw package. Reason being is you always want mana to be able to hold up, to be able to interact on your opponent's turn, especially with all the flash enablers here. Just being able to like cast an Accursed Marauder on an opponent's turn is like awesome. I went with engines. So yeah, the Enduring Curiosity effects, I have Enduring Curiosity, Grazilax, and then Kindred Discovery. Originally I had a lot more. I had a lot of the 4 mana ones, but they just felt bad. Honestly, Kindred Discovery made it by the skin of its teeth at 5 mana, but the fact that it also triggers when your creatures are entering as well, really just sends it over the edge. It's nasty. And then on top of that, just your Dimir draw engine. So Talion, I feel, is like an auto include. If you got not an auto include. I'll say if you got an extra $5 laying around in your budget, and you really, really need a draw engine, Talion's one of the best draw engines that you can possibly slam in it. And then Wavebreak Hippocamp made it in. His big brother Archmage Emeritus was in here at one point, but once again, that 4 mana slot is really important in this, because we always, if we have 4 mana and Vren isn't on the board, well then he needs to be on the board. I just tried to slim as much of the 4 mana stuff out as I could.
Yeah, then a lot of your cards that do cost a little bit more mana, which could be a little clunky, you're going to be doing at instant speed, and then if all goes well, once you've got, say, your High Fae Trickster down, then the other 3 and 4 mana things that can feel a bit clunky, you're going to be able to cast at instant speed, which really takes a lot of the weight off of the clunk that would normally be there. Jamming a bunch of 3 mana things, for instance. If you can play them at instant speed, they don't feel nearly as rough as when you have to pay 3 or 4 or 5 mana for a sorcery speed thing and kind of tap out in a control deck. So I like the way you went about that. The pieces are all kind of coming together for me. And braids. Thoughts on braids in the deck?
Yeah, any deck that makes a excessive amount of tokens or wants creatures to die, braids is a must-have, absolute must-have. The double black can mean that, you know, sometimes she's a little harder to cast, same as Douthie Voidwalker, but it's way worth the potential minor downside. Being able to, on turn 3, draw 3 extra cards is just nuts.
Yeah, and if you sacrifice a like a rat token, first of all, you're going to have ideally an excess of rat tokens. But aside from that, your opponents ought not have a whole lot of creatures in play, because you're doing nothing but murdering all their creatures every turn. So I actually ended up on braids also. In fact, I'm going to use that to segue into some of my draw engines. So the engines that I landed on, I also came to braids. And remember, we did these totally independent. We did not look at each other's lists. We had them set to private, didn't show other people while we were brewing them. So I would say, if guys, if you're looking at cards that made it into both of our deck lists, you maybe just consider that the core of an effective list. You know, the core of an effective what the hell is the guy's name? Vren list. But so some of my engines, I did braids for same reason. I should have gone with Grazilax, I think, in addition to Gix, Yawgmoth, Praetor. But I don't know. I think that's one that I just was sleeping on. I should have included Grazilax. Grazilax is sort of a Timna effect. So the draw effect, you're only maxing out at 3 draws per turn with Grazilax, but it's got some other kind of upside. Like if you, let's just say for instance in his deck list, if you play your Demon Disciple and you sack a token, maybe your rats are still small and you keep the Demon Disciple in play for having a 3/1 body, and then you attack somebody with your 3/1 Demon's Disciple. If you've got your Grazilax in play, they have to decide between letting it through, taking the 3 damage, and giving you a draw trigger, or bouncing it back to your hand. So if they block it, you can bounce it to your hand instead of having it die. And then when you do that, you can recast it, especially if you've got one of your flash enablers online at the opportune time. So they're really in a tough. They're caught between a rat and a hard place in that spot. So I did the braids, but I did this Gix, I guess, instead of Grazilax. Now, it's got pros and cons. Now, Gix says whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, so this won't work for attacking you. It says whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may pay 1 life. If they do, they draw a card. Now, I do think this fits perfectly inside this deck. Normally, the downside is going to be that you're giving draw away to your opponents because they're going to be able to attack with their creatures and get draw. But the entire deck, the way that my list is built on dealing damage. Like, you're constantly just putting pressure on life totals. And so that one little extra life that they have to pay per card can add up, and it's one of those things that will likely not seem to be an issue until it's too late, right? But the other thing is, if we're doing our job as an effective Vren deck, our opponents aren't going to have creatures to be swinging at each other to draw cards. And even if they do, at least they're hitting each other.
I gotta pause you for 1 second.
Oh yeah, no problem. Okay, so we're back on. So Gix gives you the opportunity to draw more than 3 cards per turn. So if you've got a big old swarm of rats, and if you've done your job of murdering all of your opponent's guys, then if you swing in with 5 rats and you can get them through, then you draw 5 cards. So you can draw more cards, but it has the downside of giving your opponent's card draw too. Nashi is one that I just have played this as a generic good value engine in other, especially mono black budget decks in past. I think it's really good, and it's a rat, so obviously I'm going to jam it here. Nashi says, it's got ninjutsu. A lot of times you can just play this for 3 mana and feel fine about it. But I've got some ways to get evasion, and if you can sneak him through, fine. But if not, no big deal. You can play this guy for 3 mana. He's a rat. Buffs up your other rats. It says, whenever Nashi Moonsage's Scion deals combat damage to a player, you exile the top card of each player's library. Important to remember that includes your own. Until end of turn, you may play one of those cards, and you can pay life instead of mana. So if it's a 5-drop, you can pay 5 mana instead of, or 5 life instead of 5 mana to get that effect. So it's kind of like Bolas's Citadel meets Atali, toned down a little bit, because you're getting a look at 4 cards, but you only actually get to do one of them. But it's a nice little rat engine. The one that I'm the most happy with, well, actually there's a couple. I forgot I included another rat, right? Yeah, this guy. So we've got a looter that is also a rat. So Shoreline Looter can't be blocked, speaking of evasive guys, and chip damage, right? But this is a looter. Whenever Shoreline Looter deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, then discard that card, unless you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard. So once you have that threshold ability on, now it's just every time you hit somebody, you draw a card, and it's a 2-mana evasive rat. So that's another little rat engine in the deck. I didn't go too far with the rats, but you do get some synergy. I mean, the rats do have a premium on them in the deck. But this is the one that I'm the most proud of. So everything I'm doing, now my deck list is set up a little bit different from, I don't know if I want to call you NeRo, or, well, we'll go with NeRo. So I'm set up a little bit different than NeRo's deck list, in that a lot of my removal is pinpoint removal. I'm not doing as much of the edict. I've got some, but I didn't go as heavy into it. So I'm doing a lot of 1-for-1 spot removal, which is committing a crime. So this says whenever you commit a crime, which is just like targeting your opponent or any of your opponent's things, basically. It says, whenever you commit a crime, exile up to 1 target black card from your graveyard and copy it. You may cast the copy. If you do, you lose 2 life. And so you're going to have a ton of removal spells in your graveyard, at least in my version of the deck. You're going to have your Fatal Push and your, well, just a slew of them. You've got Dismember. Let's say you've got Dismember, Fatal Push, and Long Goodbye. If those are the only 3 cards in your graveyard, you can, this thing does not say once per turn. So as long as you've got mana for it, you can, you're starting to gas out, right? You're trying to play Table Police, kill everything with 1-for-1 removal, but you've got Karavek the Punisher out. You cast Dismember, it kills something, that commits a crime, that allows you to cast your whatever else I said, your Fatal Push. So then when you cast the Fatal Push out of the graveyard, it exiles it, but that commits a crime, and that allows you to cast your Long Goodbye out of your graveyard. So as long as you don't run out of mana, or things to target, which I guess is what you call a first world problem, this thing is just kind of a nigh infinite supply of cards. You're bottlenecked here only by mana and the number of black removal spells that you have in your graveyard. This could work for other things than removal. In this deck, it's basically going to be for removal. I wanted to mention something that I don't think we talked about much on Talion, but this deck, remember, either of our decks, are trying to win by reducing our opponent's life totals to 0. And this is just another way to help do that. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with mana value, power, or toughness equal to whatever number you chose when you played it, that player loses 2 life, and you draw a card. This adds up. I've played against Talion a lot. Mustang, if any of you are familiar with the Discord, NeRo Mustang plays a CDH Talion list, and it's nasty. it draws this card just draws so many cards. It's almost like having Rhystic Study in the command zone. If you can find this guy, it's going to be a constant stream of card advantage, and it's going to be a constant stream of chip damage. So I liked it in the deck because it's another pain Stax sort of a thing. So I definitely leaned a little bit more into the pain Stax in terms of the value engines. And then other value engines, I've got one of my favorites. Now I do have ways to turn on evasion, and I've got some evasive creatures. But if you stick Mask of Memory on an evasive creature especially, it says it's 2 mana to cast and 1 to equip. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw 2 cards, and if you do, discard a card. So the velocity on this is just through the roof. You're able to draw 2 cards. So it's almost like, I mean, you're going to have to discard one of the cards. But then we've also even got some ways, like, well, for instance, Karavek. If we got Karavek in play, if we draw 3 cards and we really don't want to discard any of them, maybe you discard the black removal spell, so the next time you cast a counter spell on somebody's card, which is committing a crime, then you can cast the removal spell out of your graveyard. But Mask of Memory is fantastic. If you've never ran this in a deck and you have a deck that might be able to benefit from it, I would give it a whirl. I think it's really fantastic. Cover of Darkness, to me this is like our big finisher. So ideally, when you're playing the deck out, you're going to get to a point where even if you just have, I don't know, 5 rats in play, well, your rats get really freaking big. So if you got, say you've got 5 token rats in play and Vren, okay, then remember, each of these guys has, it says at the beginning of end step, create a 1/1 black rat creature token with. This creature gets +1/+1 for each other rat you control, where X is the number of creatures. Okay, so what is that card? There's a card that does this. Can't think of the name, but there's a card that
Coat of Arms.
What is it?
Coat of Arms.
Yeah. So like your rats are coat of arms, right? So if you get to amass a big army of huge rats, then you drop this Cover of Darkness, and you just choose rats. Now essentially all of your rats are unblockable, or they have fear. And then the last value engine I chose to run is Call of the Ring. Just says at the beginning of upkeep, the ring tempts you. Whenever you choose a creature as your ring bearer, which is going to be every turn, you may pay 2 life, and if you do, draw a card. So this is just your own personal Howling Mine. Yes, it's going to be burning you for 2 points per turn. I defy any deck in the format to try to go grindy, long game damage for damage with this deck, with the maybe possible exception of Virico. But yeah, so that's my little draw engine package. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, the last question I specifically wanted to ask about, when I was building the deck, and I think I heard you reference this also, I got to the point where I was almost done with my deck, but I had just a ton of money left. The deck is pretty inexpensive to build. So I had like, I don't know, 10 cards left. I was at 90 cards, but I was at like $63. So I have just all this extra money to fling at the deck. And so I want to just turn it over to you and see, what did you have that same experience? And if so, where did you choose to stick all these extra dollars? And then I'll if you want to pass it back to me, or you know what, I'm gonna tell where I put my money first, just so we don't get kind of turned around and backwards. So when I found that I had this just slew of extra dollars that I was not counting on having, here's some of the spots I decided to put them. I decided to upgrade my free removal and free counterspell package. I've got Snuff Out, which you normally or oftentimes don't have enough money to run. Stubborn Denial's getting up there. Misdirection. So we've got room in the budget for things like Misdirection and Snuff Out. Force of Despair. I'm even playing Into the Floodmaw, because we go crazy on creature removal. We've got plenty of counterspells, and specifically I leaned into counterspells that are non-creature, like negate type effects. But then I had money in the budget for even I don't think it was $6 at the time. In fact, I don't think Into the Flood Maw was $6 yesterday. This thing just keeps climbing. I've got a bunch of them. But the Into the Flood Maw was a spot I decided to put a little extra money. Very slim and free interaction is where I chose to stick a bunch of the money. Dismember, 568, we can afford it. Which really feels good to like actually have excess money when you're almost done building your deck. And then what was the other? And the value engines. Put some money into the engines. Talion, $5.28, but that is just a really, really good piece. And I thought that Gix. Oh no, it's Braids. Braids is $4.40. Dolphy Voidwalker, nice little Stax piece. But aside from being a nice little Stax piece, he's also a splurge piece, I'll say. And I think that is mostly what I had to say about my build of Vren. So are you tied up, or are you able to finish this thought here?
Oh no, you're good, man.
Right. So
yeah,
what'd you do with
my
the
extra money went into a similar first thought process. Then we divulged. So value engines definitely, and then after that I went heavy into the flash enablers. Like I said, different decks. My creature count is almost double yours, so like I really needed a way to make these creatures really count. Notably in my deck, I would like to point out, a lot of the time, people that are not big on combos kind of go hand in hand. Also not big on tutors. So I felt like with this list, I had so much density of like the different effects of what I wanted to do that I actually completely cut tutors out of here as well.
I did the same thing, had the same thought.
Strictly relying. Yep. Yeah, I'm strictly relying on like high density, and then just being able I've play tested this a ton. It does its thing. It does it brutally effectively well, and really like two real big points that I'd like to just bring up on this. So first of all, you only need, in order to one-shot one person, and the reason I went so heavy on edict effects, because like that 3 rats is like the magic number, believe it or not. You need six rat tokens plus Vren to one-shot somebody out of the game. So at that point, those rats, 7 times 7, bad at math, 49, I think is what that equals out to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's 6 rat tokens, so that's 2 edict effects, and you're there, which is why I went so hard on it. And in addition, like the one deck you would think that like this would kind of struggle against would be like the tokens go wide deck. You know, somebody's making a whole bunch of like small little 1/1 stuff like that, like a Balin deck or something. If those 1/1 tokens decide to block your rats to be able to mitigate damage, that just translates into more rats for you. When that end step rolls around, that counter still goes up, and you're going to make a rat for each one of those blockers as well. So even at the point where people do have some blockers and they're kind of jumping and everything, it's why I didn't really go into evasion with mine, is because honestly I would rather you trade your expensive creature for one of my rats that was essentially free, and then I just replace it at the end step. They just keep on coming back, and they keep going, and So yeah, my extra money went value engines, and then the flash enablers, and then I just upgraded like some edicts, like a really good one, Vona's Hunger, and there was a Shattered something. It's Soul Shatter and Vona's Hunger are both really awesome. Soul Shatter just lets you get rid of the biggest, spookiest thing. So if that token deck is doing the token thing, well, now the thing that they didn't want to get rid of is gone. And then Vona's Hunger, the floor for it's super low, and the ceiling the ceiling just is super high. So it has Ascend. If you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. And then, so at baseline, each opponent sacrifices a creature, which is already good. It's not the best, like it's, Shieldred's Edict is 2 mana, and then you're paying 3 mana for this. So it's a little bit less efficient. But the upside is so massive. If you have the city's blessing instead, each opponent sacrifices half of the creatures he or she controls rounded up. That's a 3-mana spell into a game-winning board state at the end step.
Yeah, that takes out half of your opponent's creatures and gives you an armada of rats, assuming that they had, creatures to sack off, and if they didn't, then chances are you're in a pretty good spot anyway. I noticed another spot where we diverged a bit is it looks like you had a couple of these scam effects, right? These my thing is dead. Oh, just kidding. No, it's not dead. Just for the commander?
Yeah, so the thought process behind those... Yeah, yes and no. So they're for the commander. It's cheap interaction, cheap protection for the commander. But it also is really, really nasty when the turn after you play Vren, you go to play an accursed marauder. And then with its effect on the stack, you target it with not dead after all.
Right. Got it. Okay. Then this Swarm Yard was the one you splurged on too. This is one I think if I had seen it or knew it existed, I think this would have made my splurge list also.
Yeah, I would argue that you got the better one in your list with Yahenni's expertise, but I think I still did good on this. It's a 5-mana asymmetrical board wipe. Everything else's things are going to cease to exist, and yours exist harder now because everything else got blown up, and now at the end step you're going to make even more rats.
Yep, that's pretty good. One more thing. What did you feel about the mana? Like, how did you feel about the number of lands and the ramp options? What do you think we should be doing with our mana bases and ramp options?
This is not a deck where, I'm not saying that you want to play Vren out on turn 4 every game. Like, if you can get him out early, it's cool. But it's also not like super vital that he's the first thing that ever hits your board. However, it's always good to have Vren out early. So Dowsing Dagger was actually another kind of splurge for me. In a deck that deletes creatures like this, it is phenomenal. It's one of those cards that kind of like Archdruid's Charm. I don't think it ever really feels bad in this deck to top deck. Strictly, so just to read through it, so for 2 colorless mana, when Dowsing Dagger enters the battlefield, target opponent creates 2/0/2 green plant tokens with Defender. And then equipped creature gets +2/+1, and when it deals damage, you exile the card, flip it over, it transforms. So the plants in most decks would be a bad thing. Here it's good because that Spellslinger player that hasn't been playing to the board, well, now he has 2 creatures that we can hit with our edict effects. And when this thing transforms, it just turns into a repeatable Black Lotus on a land. It is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that include. There's a little bit of dyssynergy, or could be, because you're giving your opponents 0/2s that they could sacrifice to your edicts if they do have creatures that they want to not sacrifice. But yeah, and then at the same time, if they run out of creatures, you're giving them more creatures to fuel your shit. Or if they just are playing Niv Mizzet or something where they're not playing much to the board. But that land, man, tapped for 3 mana of any one color, that is freaking nasty. I might want this in my list, actually. I don't know. I like the Idol of Oblivion too. That was a good call.
There's an ultimate Vren list out there, and I think it lands somewhere with the combination between these two ideas.
Yeah, it could do. I think there are some packages that you have that work with other packages that you have, and I don't know. I think as much as they look like similar at a glance, I think that there's actually quite a lot going on with. I can tell you didn't just slap this deck together. Your packages weave together with the other packages in the deck, but. Yeah, there might be a way to, uh, well, take some of the best ideas out of both is never a bad thing. I wish I would have thought about Malevolent Hermit too. We're playing the wheels, although I don't know if I actually ended up on both wheels. I was back and forth on that. I don't remember where I landed. Nope, I did only go with the Windfall. I didn't play the other one. And yeah, that's definitely something that could have gone either way. What about the land count? How many lands did you go with, and how do you feel about it?
I want to say I landed on either 33 or 34. Let's see
We're
here.
higher with 35.
Oh, I actually went high. Man, I hit. Yeah, so I think that just boiled down to my actual curve being higher
Yeah.
and slower than Navinod's.
True.
I'm playing, more expensive spells. I think if there was ever a deck that you could do that in budget competitive and get away with it, it would be something like this, where you're not worried about someone popping off quite as hard just because like they don't have the creatures anymore to do it. So yeah, I went a little bit higher on the lands. You can see my curve, and the biggest thing I'd like to take away with this, like you can see that curve and it looks very similar to a casual curve. This is not a casual deck. The reason it looks like that is because like what this deck is designed to do. And yeah, you hit early, you hit hard, and then you just maintain pressure. And I think that's going back to the whole how do you build Vren and what's the right way to build Vren? I think it looks a lot like these lists.
Yeah. Hit fast, hit hard, and hit often. We've got an average mana value of 1.59. I want to see where, I think mine's going to be lower than that. I'm sure of it, right? I know you get sketchy on your end when I start going through the scroll bar like this, but I can't find the damn thing. Oh, here it is. Wow, they're a lot closer than I thought. So the average mana value of my deck is 1.47 and yours is 1.59. I mean, it's not a tiny difference, but it's not as big a difference as I was expecting. And we're both playing all the like really cheap interaction that's good, and we're both playing all the really good value engines that are a little bit more hefty. And basically you're playing more lands, and you're playing more of the bigger the higher mana value things, but you're also playing the flash enablers to sort of help compensate for that and take the clunk out, make it not feel clunky. And
the recursion package is into that as well.
Yeah, that recursion package is pretty cool. I think I would say my list, I went a little bit more straightforward. I mean, obviously, I built the deck with kind of, I hope, good deck building. It wasn't, thoughtless by any stretch of the imagination. But it's, I don't have anything that's, I don't think I'm quite as synergistic. I mean, I did things like put the Karavek the Punisher, which I think this is the best deck list I've ever seen for it. And I think Karavek the Punisher is a slept-on card, but I think this deck in particular will show people how fucked up this card is. This card is a mess. And Gix, also, I think this is a really good deck list for. Funnily, it's funny to me. I'm not the kind of guy to like shoehorn in these cute little synergies when it's not imperative, but I ended up on more rats than you did. So I think you just hate fun is what that comes down to.
Yeah, it just I think the rats that you did include were like, I think it was just a miss. Like I don't think looking at either, like, it's not like this is a good list, this is a bad list.
No.
These are both absolutely disgusting lists, and we just divulged on a couple points. Like, just to reiterate again, like, we did not see each other's decks.
Right.
We both busted this out over a couple day time span, and then we came back together at the end of it and did it. First of all, it was like insanely fun to do, and then I guess the big reveal was awesome, because like you're scanning through it and you're like, dude, we're playing the same deck, and then you start digging into it and just like seeing like all these like little intricacies and deck building packages.
Dude,
It was a super cool thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you look at it at a glance, it's like, oh my God, yeah, we almost built the exact list. And then you look just a little bit deeper, it's like, no, we fucking didn't. They're very different. Now, I think what we have in common is we're playing all of the cards that you just obviously should play. I mean, I missed one or two here and there. You missed one or two here and there. But we found all the obvious shit. And we're gonna have those in common. But I think that there are definitely unique little packages in both, and I think that the decks would actually end up playing out quite differently. I think mine's gonna play more like just a standard control stack that is gonna beat you to death with giant rats, and I think yours has I want to say a little bit more personality to it. You went off, I think, in a little bit more of your own direction than what maybe the average deck list might look like. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. You went off in a little bit of a different direction than what I think the average good deck builder building this deck might end up on. Yours has more character, more synergies, more little intricacies. And I think I have the higher card quality and the more kind of proven track record of, obviously, when you jam a bunch of dismembers and value engines and counter spells in your deck, it's gonna get the job done. And that's the thing too, that if anybody's not sure about this, all you have to do when you're playing these decks or one of these deck lists or a version, all you have to do is not lose the game, and you will win the game. Like, that's what the deck is going to do. People will say, like, oh, competitive decks, the difference is that they're faster. It's not true. They're just better built, right? And these decks are well built. And if we can drag the game into deep water, we are going to drown you like a bunch of drowning rats. But yeah, I think that's most of what one more, I guess, a final thing. As far as I'm concerned, my final thing, if there were a couple of cards that you could take from my deck and shoehorn into yours, what would those, one or two cards, whatever, be?
I think top two, just looking at the creatures right there, Azure Beastbinder is a huge swing and a miss for me, and then Gix is so smart here. I didn't even think about Gix. Like, Gix is so good here as a draw engine. I'd probably replace Enduring Curiosity with Gix. It would drop my mana curve down.
And your price.
And then, yeah, Yeheni's expertise, I feel like, is just it's so solid here.
Right on. So like there's a couple that are just duh on my part. Blood Pat, like, this is a Blood Pat deck. We're playing Dimir. We want, like, I should have Blood Pat in my deck. That was a miss. The fact that I did remember Gix, I'm real happy about. The fact that I somehow remembered Gix and didn't think, oh yeah, I should play the blue version of that effect. I don't know how that happened, especially Grazilax being like one of my all-time favorite cards. I bought like 20 of these fucking things because I was positive that this was going to go way up in value. And we'll see, may still. And then another one of my favorite cards that I did not put in the deck is Malevolent Hermit. So those are a couple of the pieces that pop out and make me wonder if I was kind of sleeping. And then I've got another, well, I can just say I really appreciate what you're doing with the altar, the Chthonian Nightmare, Phyrexian Reclamation, but I don't think it makes sense for me to say I'd want to take those cards and put them into my deck, because I don't think those are part of the thing that makes your deck different than my deck. But I think that they're very interesting includes. I'm definitely also interested in the Dowsing Dagger. I've got some mixed feelings about it that maybe I'd have to see how it played out in testing. But yeah, quite a lot. I think Yeah, I think what I'd like to do is have a 200 card deck, and or well, I guess we'd probably be at like what 150 cards. I bet you. I bet you we're different by about 30 or 40 cards. So maybe 130 card deck. We just
Yeah, just just pretty much the entire deck.
That's
But
a
like
lot,
I said,
right?
when you scan through it, it doesn't look.
Exactly. All right, man. Also, I don't know if you did this, but I was happy too when I saw I had a few bucks left. I got the we've got a 4-mana commander. We're in 2 colors. So I got the Peat Bog and Suppress and Skyrian. Did you land on those?
I don't believe so. It might have gotten Peat Bog, so I'm actually a little weird. Yeah, so I'm not saying it's the wrong choice. It definitely is not a wrong choice, but the depletion lands and 4-mana commanders always feel really, really, really funky to me. I think they work excellently on 3-mana and 5-mana commanders,
Oh,
and
interesting.
4-mana commanders, it just feels because like, okay, so you play it turn 1, comes in tapped, and then okay, cool. So for turn 3 or for turn 2, you have 3 available mana. You're probably doing like a rock or something like that, and then the turn that your commander comes in, like it always leads to like this excess amount of
Yeah,
mana
I see what you mean.
that makes it a little funky for me those early turns.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I can understand that. Yeah, generally I think they're just good enough that if I'm not playing like a 2-mana commander, I've got budget for them, and I'm only in a couple colors. I think generally I just jam them. But yeah, I can definitely appreciate that. Long Goodbye, I think, is one that you should look into.
Yeah, and Lethal Scheme, I think, is another one I missed.
Yeah, those are pretty good. But yeah, I guess is that a video? I think I've just come to find too that I'm a lot higher on these on cards like, I think I'm only playing the 1 here, but cards like Consider, Opt, Brainstorm. I think if I'm not mistaken, it turns out that I'm just a lot higher on these effects than what you are. Is that right? Not a big fan?
Yeah, I mean, not so much.
Okay.
Just not a big fan. It's just yeah, usually I just look for, a lot of the time when I'm running Consider, it's also part of a Doomsday pile, and outside of that I have a harder time justifying not that it's a bad card, just I don't know, just different deck building practices. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, what I wanted to say on mine. I think these, like I said, this was a blast. I think they both turned out awesome.
Absolutely. I think they'll both wreck a creature meta. So yeah, so
Did you want to...
Go on.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt you. Did you want to kind of hint at a upcoming event, or are we saving that?
So yeah, now this is interesting. So we got to a point on the Discord where things started really ramping up, and we've got pods starting to fire, and it's starting to look like if we can keep the momentum going, that we're going to be able to get a tournament going. So now I've been in this situation once in the past where we had pods firing on spell table a couple times a week pretty consistently, and I feel like I kind of just missed it and I dropped the ball, and I'd really like to not drop the ball now. So we've got, at least it looks like we've got a tournament that's going to be forming. We're going to put some free money. It's going to be a free tournament. And I think at the floor, we're going to be looking at a $40 prize for a free tournament. And then that's only if we get, well, even if we get, 5, well, how many do you need to fire? Maybe 8 people. Then we'll have that prize. So a virtual guarantee of $40 free dollars. And then if we get, I don't remember exactly what we figured on the levels, but it's something like, don't quote me, that if we get to 32, whatever makes an even number of people for pods, players, then I'm gonna throw I'm gonna throw 50 instead of my 20, so it'll be $70. And then if we get to 50 or more, it's going to be $100, something like that. But we're going to have prize support. It's going to be free entry. And you don't need a deck. You don't need an expensive setup or any setup for Spell Table, because we're going to run the thing on Untap IN. And NeRo is going to put together a tutorial video. So if you're not familiar with that, well, maybe I don't think I'm actually the person to talk about Untap IN. Why don't you kind of explain what that is for everybody?
Yeah. So it's all the good things about Spell Table and Cockatrice and Xmage without really any of the downsides. It's all server side. Meaning you don't have to download a bunch of additional programs. You don't have to have a webcam. I mean, it's literal barrier to entry. You can even do this on a phone if you really wanted to. I wouldn't suggest it because it's a little clunky on a phone, but like literal barrier to entry would just be a phone, preferably a PC. It integrates with Discord. You can load your deck lists on there. There's constantly lobbies firing off at any hour of the day. Seriously, you hop on there whenever. There's at least like 400 to 500 people playing on the site. It's completely free if you want it to be. You can pay to get some other benefits and stuff. But I mean, I'm a free player on there, and I have like close to 2,000 hours at this point. I play Magic way too much. But yeah, I'm going to be doing a tutorial video here within the next couple of days, sending it over to Nav so you can get it uploaded. And that'll just be a quick little 10-minute tutorial. I mean, I think anybody would be able to figure it out, but it'd be nice just to have like a little visual guide there. And then, yeah, man, just come over, hop on, play with me over there. I'm Battle Pants on Untap. I'm always looking for a game. And, you know, the more just interest that we get in that, just being able to fire off that tournament, I'm also throwing $20 into the prize pool. So I'm trying to get it off the ground running too. And, yeah, it's like a super exciting time to be a $100 competitive player. I've been getting a lot of traction and a lot of good reactions from people over on Reddit when I post my deck lists, and then they've been filtering into the Discord. So it's a long way of saying, hop in the Discord.
Yeah.
There's people always talking on there. It's popping off at all hours of the day. And then we're getting really close to a point where it's going to be, you know, you're going to go on Untap and all you're going to see is Budget Pubstomper servers.
Fucking A. Yes, we hope. And I wanted to show off this. So we found out after doing this exercise that Vren had, was this a recent tournament win, or Vren has won 3 $100 budget competitive events in recent memory anyway. And I think while we're closing out, I'm just going to open up that list. And this is the, neither one of us made this guy. This is the list that won.
This is, yeah. Alakar on our Discord is the one who provided all this data, by the way.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is, even though I thought, well, I don't know if we actually could cram our 2 deck lists together, it looks a little bit like that's kind of looks a little bit like that's what he did, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's and he said this was clean. The guy who posted the information, he didn't actually play this deck, but he said the guy who was playing this deck like just rolled over the tournament with it. He said it was so oppressive and so impossible to play against.
Look at that frickin' land base, man. This guy was not wasting any of his precious dollars. Jesus.
Nope.
All right.
I mean, and it's like, you know, if this version is winning tournaments, like, I just think it solidifies both of the decks that we showed off too.
Yeah, it also makes me reconsider my thoughts on mana bases. But also maybe it should point, there's things to be learned here, right? So this is what a 3-time champion deck list looks like. They're not putting a whole bunch of their money into the land base, but also it's exactly a 2-color list. And I think there's a lesson there somewhere, but we'll have to tease that out in the next exciting episode of Who's the Boss. Sorry, Budget Pubstompers. I think that's going to do it for now, guys. Anything else to say? Any final parting remarks?
That's it, man. Just yeah, everyone watching this, jump in the Discord. We'd love to have you.
And if you do enter
I'm
the
out,
tournament, don't play this
until
fucking
the next
deck.
time.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it would be a love-hate thing if I see this roll up across the table from me in the tournament. But yeah, guys, jump in the Discord. I'm always on there. Avanad's always on there. There's hundreds of other people always just talking about, $100 budget it's all we talk about and all we think about. Everyone's trying to build cool lists and everything. Come jam some games with us, and hopefully I'll see you there.
All right, guys, and if you don't, you suck, and go to hell. Until next time, may all your outs be alive and all your pots be monsters. Word to your mothers and fathers, and namaste, bitches. Hour and a half. Well, big fat namaste to all you big fat bitches. Peace.